Okay, so imagine this. For 12,000 years, a giant has been sleeping in the scorching hot lands of Ethiopia. I mean, this thing was a silent peak, basically a geological afterthought. And then, one morning, with zero warning, it wakes up and it roars. This is the incredible story of Hayli Gubbi. For the people who actually lived there, this wasn't some abstract science thing. It was absolute chaos. A villager from the nearby town of Aftera put it perfectly. When the earth started to shudder and the sky just went black, he said it felt like a sudden bomb had been thrown. Wow. I mean, that just captures the sheer shock, right? A mountain just exploding. And what an explosion it was. We're talking about a massive plume of ash and gas that shot an unbelievable 45,000 feet into the sky. Let's just put that into perspective for a second. That's almost 9 miles straight up. That's higher than commercial jets fly. The sheer power is it's staggering. And that right there, that's the central mystery. I mean, volcanoes that are considered dormant aren't supposed to just wake up and do this. So how did it happen? How did this quiet giant, a volcano that was basically ignored for millennia, suddenly unleash this kind of fury? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into. All right, so to figure out why it blew its top, we've got to first get to know the volcano itself and the really unique place on Earth where it's been sitting quietly for all that time. So, Hayli Gubbi sits in Ethiopia's Afar region, which is, no joke, one of the most geologically active places on the entire planet. It's called the East African Rift, and it's a place where the continental plates are literally pulling away from each other. The ground itself is being torn apart, which, as you can imagine, creates these massive cracks from magma to bubble up from deep inside the earth. Now, when I say volcano, what do you picture? Probably a big, steep, pointy mountain, right? Well, Hayli Gubbi is not that. It's what's called a shield volcano. Think of a wide, gently sloping mound, kind of like a warrior shield lying on the ground. It was built up over ages by these really smooth, runny lava flows. And that unassuming shape, that's a big part of why everyone just kind of overlooked it. And this contrast is absolutely key to the story. See, the Afar region already has a celebrity volcano. Its name is Erta Ale. And it's famous. It's constantly bubbling with lava, it's heavily studied, tourists go see it. And then right next door, you have Hayli Gubbi, the quiet, ignored neighbor. For 12,000 years, it did absolutely nothing. So naturally, scientists focused all their attention elsewhere. And that is why its sudden awakening was such a massive shock to everyone. But here's the thing. Just because it's quiet on the surface doesn't mean nothing's happening down below. Oh no. Beneath that quiet facade, the Earth was doing this slow, powerful dance that was building up to something huge. So get this, the trigger didn't even start under Hayli Gubbi. It started next door, at its famous neighbor, Erta Ale. Geologists picked up on something called a dike intrusion. Just think of it as a massive vertical blade of molten rock, of magma, cracking its way through the Earth's crust. And this crack spread underground, away from Erta Ale, and shoved itself right underneath the sleeping Hayli Gubbi. It's literally like pumping high-octane fuel into a long, dormant engine. So what you're looking at here is basically a perfect geological storm. First, you have the tectonic plates constantly pulling apart, which created this deep weakness in the crust. Then that blade of magma from the volcano next door comes along and exploits that weakness. It starts pressurizing the old magma chamber that had just been sitting there under Hayli Gubbi for centuries, and finally, pop. The pressure just got to be too much. It was an awakening that was pretty much inevitable, set in motion by forces miles away. And of course, looking back, there were warning signs. Hindsight is always 20/20, right? Geologists knew magma was on the move in the region months before it happened. And then, just weeks before the big one, locals actually reported seeing faint smoke coming from the summit. These were like the final whispers from the giant before it let out that huge roar on November 23rd. Okay, so you might be thinking, an eruption in a remote part of Ethiopia, what does that have to do with me? Well, as this event proved, what happens in one corner of our planet can have consequences for pretty much all of us. For the people right there, the impact was immediate, and honestly, just devastating. This thick, suffocating ash came down and blanketed the village of Aftera. It covered the grazing lands that the local herders rely on, and it contaminated their water. The miracle here is that no one was killed in the initial blast, but people's livelihoods were threatened in an instant. But that ash didn't just stay there. Oh no. That plume got picked up by the high altitude winds and it went on an incredible journey. It traveled northeast, right across the Red Sea, swept over the entire Arabian Peninsula, and kept drifting for thousands of kilometers, all the way towards South Asia. That is a truly global footprint from just one eruption. And here you can really see that ripple effect in action. What started as a local crisis for communities in Ethiopia, well, it quickly ballooned into a regional problem when airlines had to ground flights all across the Middle East. And why? Because volcanic ash is incredibly dangerous for jet engines. It can literally melt and turn into glass inside them. And that, in turn, became a global headache, messing up travel and supply chains thousands of miles away. So, once the dust settles, literally, what's the takeaway here? Beyond all the dramatic pictures and headlines, what has the awakening of this one volcano actually taught us? Well, it really hammered home three crucial lessons. First, and this is a big one, dormant does not mean extinct. A volcano that's been quiet for 12,000 years can absolutely still pack a monster punch. Second, it's a powerful reminder that our planet's geology is always in motion. And third, and this is maybe the most important part, it's a global warning. There are hundreds of other volcanoes just like Hayli Gubbi out there that are barely monitored, if at all, and we're basically just ignoring them. So, at the end of the day, what do we need to remember? It's pretty simple, really. Silence is not safety. The Earth is alive, it's powerful, and it's always changing right under our feet. And in a world as connected as ours, there's no such thing as a local event anymore. An eruption anywhere can affect people everywhere. That's the reality Hayli Gubbi forced us all to look at. And that leaves us with a pretty unsettling final thought. Hayli Gubbi was just one quiet volcano that wasn't really on anyone's radar. So it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other sleeping giants are out there right now that we're completely ignoring, just waiting for their turn to wake up?